What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Wednesday show, gang. Happy middle of your week. Hopefully things are going well out there. Big active baseball day. If you've been paying attention through the morning, we've had projections up on the site for 12:35 showdown on DraftKings, big 8-game afternoon slate on DraftKings, 2 separate FanDuel slates rocking. Pitching friendly kind of afternoon, at least this is the last time I looked. Yanks just took the lead in their cold weather game in Detroit a couple minutes ago. But we had a no-hitter going in the St. Louis game. Looks like that is no longer a no-hitter. That's now nothing in the 10th, though. 8 total hits. Just 2 runs on the board in the 8th for the Yanks and the Tigers. Just 2 runs on the board for the Marlins and the Mets in the 7th. Just 1 on the board between the Rangers and the Cubbies, but that's only in the 3rd. And then a few games yet to get started, but very pitcher-friendly early slate. Not a lot of offense for DFS. So hopefully you're doing well on that one. I did not play that slate. I was just here to get it lined up. Early morning, long night last night without a lot of sleep in it. But we're here. We're going to get through this one. Just 5 games to talk about for the main slate for tonight. So we'll go through it as usual, but we'll breeze through this one at a decent clip because they do still have to get to NBA. There's like 11 NBA games or 10 NBA games tonight. Got to get NHL knocked out. I think that's just a 5-gamer. Let me actually see. Yeah, it's 10 NBA. I think it's 5 NHL games today. 4 or 5, yeah. Yeah, so that'll all be done, but I'd like to be up and out of here 4:15, somewhere in that territory. Give me a little bit of time to get the basketball stuff done. I've got at least the framework set up in the model. Just need to go through all the ins, the outs, the minutes, tweak some rates. But we're here to talk about baseball. It's an interesting looking 5-gamer. Kind of like it. Few people here hanging out to begin the show. I like the pitching board. I think good pitcher in a playable spot. Good pitcher with some obvious vulnerabilities in a spot that those vulnerabilities could be exploited, or in which his talent could overcome and find a bunch of strikeouts. He projects out kind of well. Good pitcher on the opposite side of that same game with arguably a little bit more upside for a great price at $79. Kevin Gausman, middle of the road type starter at this point. Seth Lugo, kind of a low impact but low risk type starter. That said, got the Twins looking pretty aggressively good on the other side, so I think I'm targeting Lugo a little bit. I think Grant Holmes has the opportunity to grow into a little bit of a decent pitcher. So far, I haven't seen a ton, and I like the bats on the other side of that, but he's aggressively cheap and projects out just as playable as, say, Tanner Houck for quite a bit more. Houck facing the Blue Jays, it's a gettable spot for a guy who keeps the ball in the yard. And then you get into the Taijuan Walker, who I don't like really at all, and then the 2 pitchers at Coors Field. But for a 5-game slate, I think we've got 7 workable starters right there. If you're really desperate and you wanted to throw Tyler Alexander at the Rockies for $6K, Sensatella, I don't know that you tangle with. But I think there are legitimately 7 at least decent starters on this slate, and nobody's wildly priced. 95 is the highest price on either site. Very manageable as far as the pitchers go. So I think we had a lot to work with. Meyer had a no-no going as well. I didn't see that, but that makes sense with that score. Yeah, I actually like Meyer. The Mets projected pretty well on the other side of that game for some home run upside, but I talked about Meyer sometime last week, I want to say. And I just liked the look of his arsenal through spring. He was getting a little bit of buzz through spring. If I'm remembering correctly, the first one was not great. Second one was all right. But that's obviously a nice step forward. There's going to be power that'll show for a little bit on him until we get some additional sample added on. But yeah, you like to see those growth starts. I thought Clay Holmes had a really interesting start on the other side of that series going for the Mets against Miami yesterday. All the pitches look really, really good if you just looked at how everything graded out. Just happened to give up a few late runs. He struck out 10 or 11. Career high for strikeouts, converted reliever, so that makes sense. But the difference between the outcome and what the actual arsenal looked like and what his results in terms of strikeouts and whiffs and everything were was pretty stark. So I think it might result in a spot where whoever he's facing next time out, Clay Holmes will be one to maybe grab at fairly low ownership, maybe a slightly discounted price, despite the fact that he actually pitched really well. Always on the lookout for spots like that. Let's pull up the Vegas board. Ignore the top. That's where the morning and early slate was. And Samuel over here. But Blue Jays in Boston, 8.5 run total there. Gausman against Houck. Two very playable pitchers. Two very playable offenses. Prefer the power upside from the Red Sox. Rafi Devers has come to life once the calendar flipped to the second week of the season, I guess. Hitting the ball a little bit over the last handful of days. Blue Jays lineup is very top-heavy, as we've discussed a few times already. So I greatly prefer the Red Sox side of that, 4.47 implied total versus 4.12. That said, Blue Jays definitely enough on the board. It's just you go up against a ground bowler like Houck, it can give you problems chasing upside. Angels came through with, 5-6 runs yesterday. They were middle of the pack, but as a off-the-board kind of a team. Same thing with the Rangers. With two teams we talked about yesterday as being interesting and off the board and potentially coming through as higher than their Vegas totals. Both those teams kind of got there in that sense. We missed the home run pick on Mike Trout. I think, who was it, Kyron Paris hit one. Going up against Pepio, I don't love the Angels side, but we are seeing a little bit of power. I think they're at worst playable over there, but I have a healthy respect for Pepio. I think he's very, very good, and he's got some excellent pitches that could just have these guys up there flailing, guys like Joe Adell, up there swinging and missing. So could be a problematic spot on the Angels, just a 3.74 implied total for them. 4.35 on the other side for the Rays going up against Kikuchi. He's one of the more highly projected pitchers of the day because of that strikeout upside that he possesses, but he's also got that home run downside. He's also got some walk downside that can creep in around the edges on the wrong day, and this team can draw their walks. So high danger spot for Kikuchi. I think it's very much a two-sided thing, though. I think you can absolutely use a lot of Kikuchi, and I think you can absolutely stack some Rays against him. Junior Caminero is the home run pick of the day to ram that point home. Two guys in that lineup, I believe, over the magic number for home runs. Phillies and the Braves. Speaking of some home run upside, it's Grant Holmes on the bump for the Braves. It's Taijuan Walker on the mound for the Phillies. Two gettable pitchers. I do, like I said, expect Grant Holmes to maybe, be at least somewhat usable in spots, serviceable, real life, third, fourth starter type maybe. And you can kind of see that on the Vegas board. Philly at just 4.03 implied runs in an 8.5 run game. Atlanta drawing more of that at home, 4.57 implied runs. Both teams loaded with power bats. Both teams excellent for upside plays in any given slate against pitching like this. So I do think we could probably grab some underappreciated Phillies. They're drawing some, the obvious guys anyway, are drawing some good projections, good home run marks. And then the Braves are the Braves. They've kind of scuffled in a lot of spots early this season. They scuffled through all of last year. It's a very solid total, and it's a lineup loaded with excellent bats. The Twins, the Royals, it's Joe Ryan against Seth Lugo. I think that's another interesting one. Vegas likes it basically dead even, 4.06 or 4.02 implied runs. Essentially the same thing. We can always use that Royals lineup. There's definitely interesting hitters there, but I do like Joe Ryan. I think we get upside out of him. And then, as I said, I think we're probably going to target Lugo a little bit here, just given how the Twins are projecting out against him, given the fact that he's a low-ish strikeout pitcher with a fair amount of contact available. I kind of like the idea of some Minnesota here, and maybe they're a little bit sneaky. But I do think you can play Lugo back the other way. That is very much a four corners type game. And then we got Coors Field to end the night, 10.5 runs. Good luck. 5.64 implied total for the Brewers. They're obviously drawing most of the weight there. Two low-end pitchers in that one. I think we're just talking bats. 4.97 on the other side for the Rockies. That's way up from what they were drawing against Freddie Peralta yesterday with good cause. So bats on either side at Coors Field. Andy, good afternoon, buddy. Tiz, Anthony Taylor, Cujo's here. Quiet day in the chat so far. A few people here hanging out. I figured we'd draw a lighter crowd with a late show, kind of a pop-up, and with a lot of people, I think, just entered all their lineups in the early slate. It's so difficult because DraftKings does it right. They go, all right, we're going to put the entire afternoon into one big slate with good contests, full contests as if it was the main slate of the day, and then we're going to replicate that in the night slate. DraftKings is running essentially the same tournaments as far as the prize pools go. FanDuel's like, we're going to give you 3 garbage slates spread across the day starting at 12:30. It's just so dumb. So FanDuel's annoying, but it's creating these chopped up days a little bit. So apologies for getting the show started a little bit late today, but nothing we can really do about it. Good. Twins is right there. Grabbing those lineups now. Thanks for the heads up. I almost made Matt Wallner the home run pick of the day, but then I liked the looks of Junior Caminero a little bit more. What was the other one? Angels. No Buxton. That's a shame. That's a downgrade for sure for that lineup. We'll talk it through. But yeah, that takes one of the bats that I was definitely interested in, and was drawing, I believe, a double-digit home run mark. Takes him out of the equation there. That sucks. So, first game up, again, we're going to be doing a lot of, you can kind of go in any direction with this game. You know, this one's easily a four corners game, as is that Minnesota KC one. Tanner Houck in his first start went 5 2/3. He gave up 4. He only struck out 2. He walked 3. He allowed 2 home runs. He allowed a home run in his next start, over which he only lasted 4 innings. Give up 3 earned on 5 hits. He did strike out 6 in that one, but he walked 2. That was against the Orioles. The first one was against Texas. So it comes back with another tough divisional opponent here. It's not a great spot for Tanner Houck, but he's more talented than what the results have looked like over the first couple. It's not like he's gotten destroyed, but there's a lot of hits on the board. There's a handful of runs. There's several somewhat uncharacteristic home runs on the board so far. So everything right here is going to look real ugly in the small sample, outside of the fact that the stuff plus mark is holding up quite nicely. That's well above average stuff. Last year it was a little bit better, but we're just a few points off that mark. And he's not going to be a strikeout upside pitcher, but he is decent at getting out there, eating 6 innings for you, pitching his way cleanly through innings because he keeps the ball down significantly. 3.9 degree average launch last year resulted in just a 1.48% home run rate. He's one of these guys where we don't really mind the 41% hard hits last year, the 43% 2 years ago. Home runs were a lot higher that year because he was giving up a little bit more launch, a little bit more barrels, and slightly more hard hits and exit velo. A lot of happenstance baked into the difference between that result and that result. So home runs are always going to be a little bit in flex. But with these guys who reliably cut launch angle out of the equation, or somewhat reliably in the case of Houck, guys like Framber Valdez, who we talk about a lot, guys like Logan Webb, I would say Houck is a B-plus version of that, or a B maybe version of that. Very capable of doing it, despite recent results. Obviously, he's gotten mashed in a couple spots, giving up 3 early home runs. 5.19 xFIP is not encouraging. The least encouraging thing is the walk rate. Last year, just 6.5% walk rate, which is at least functional against just a 20.7% strikeout rate. 86 is a little pricey, since we're kind of just looking for some clean innings. Give me 6 innings, a quality start, a win, and 5 strikeouts. And I think you're pretty happy with Tanner Houck if he gets through that and maybe gives up 2 runs along the way. But that's the kind of start we're usually talking about. It's more functional for 77 on DraftKings, but he's very playable. The Blue Jays lineup, they're a collection of hitters that, again, top heavy, little bit of ability to hit for average in theory at least, little bit of ability to get on base in theory, some power lingering at the top of the lineup, but a lot of meh as you go down the board. After 4, there's at least a question still on George Springer. He's off to a good start, which is very encouraging over 43 plate appearances. Used to be borderline star caliber player. It was greatly diminished last year, but he's been crushing the ball early. We'll see. It remains very much a question mark. Andrés Giménez is a hit tool guy with a little bit of speed. So maybe he gives you a little bit of ability to get on base and create havoc out there and create scoring situations. But he's not a true cleanup bat. Anthony Santander is definitely a legitimate power bat. Comes with a few flaws in other departments, but he's a very, very lethal power bat. Vladdy Guerrero's a superstar. Bo Bichette is functional again at the top of the lineup over 56 plate appearances, but had a down half a season last year. So it's not an elite Blue Jays lineup, but what they can do is frustrate a ground baller like this. Enough balls poked over the infielders' heads or through the infield. Both of those qualify on low launch angles. you can dink and dunk your way to death against Tanner Houck, and this team is kind of teed up that way. So I don't love the spot. I kind of lean more bats. 4-1-2 implied total. I think that also kind of leans bats while not getting aggressive about it. But if you are stacking up Blue Jays, which is, again, it's a four-corner spot, they're very much on the table. I think you're starting, obviously, with those three or two out of those three in most of your lineups. And as I was just saying, your main playability next is going to be right there. And then, apologies for just kind of straight lining it, but it is Alejandro Kirk, and then you're dealing with just mix and match pieces like Will Wagner, Ernie Clement, and Alan Roden down the bottom of the lineup. Roden, a rookie, made the team out of camp, 35 plate appearances so far. He's been okay. He's gotten on at a 343 clip. That's perfectly fine. What are we looking at in terms of, let's see. Not a lot of underlying anything to suggest there's much more than what we see on the surface going on over those first 35 plate appearances. Did have a decent spring to make the team, though. Ernie Clement, we've seen moderate flashes of pop from here and there. 452 plate appearances last year, 12 homers, 12 steals, and okay front end of the slash line, but a disastrous 284 on base, 6% below average for run creation, a 145 ISO. That's what the back end of this lineup is. There's not a lot to work with here, and it really limits their ability to turn this back around and get you back up to the top here. So even if you're trying to cheapen it up and, all right, I grabbed all three of these guys, but then I went down to here, you're not coming around to those three guys unless they're really lighting this day up many more times than the three and change that they would just draw from straight line math. So it's a problematic stack, but it's a playable one. Bichette, as mentioned, 314, 375, 392, creating runs 28% better than average to start. He's only 43, 28, so the pricing is not caught up to the 56 good plate appearances, which, say it with me, mean nothing. It's not even a tenth of his season yet, but it's encouraging. Vladdy at 53, 35, with a lot of money in his pockets now. Hopefully it doesn't weigh him down too much. The start hasn't been great, but it's Vladdy. He'll be fine. The 345 on base is fine. 1% below average and no home runs as far as run creation and power go. I think we'll be fine. 4,500, 3,000 is a good price for Anthony Santander. So maybe it's just an obvious three-man off the top of this lineup with those three guys. Maybe it's just a straight line obvious five-man. It's not like this is expensive for the, whoops. And that mass out to 4,500 a man, and it includes Bichette, Vladdy, Santander, whatever George Springer is and whatever Andres Jimenez is going to be. So it's not a bad option, but it's just, I guess, glaringly obvious that it's just the top five that you want to be talking about here. Kirk every now and then can get into one, but there's better catchers on the board, even at 2,800. If you're building a bunch of Blue Jays stacks, by all means, take your shares of Kirk, some Wagner. It's perfectly fine, but those are not priority bats. Coming back the other way, Kevin Gausman, 85, 88. Kind of ugly to start the season in terms of strikeouts. Got just 4 in his first game. That was against the Orioles. Did go 6, faced 22 hitters. Gave up a home run, but just 2 earned on 3 hits overall. Second game, just 2 hits allowed, but gave up 3 earned. Gave up a home run in that one. Walked 2, and more concerningly, struck out 0. That's not great. That's against the Mets over 5 1/3. Nice catch, Dingler. Dylan Dingler went back to the screen to catch a pop-up and it bounced out of his glove. So yeah, Kevin Gausman, for a guy who formerly upper 20s into the 30s strikeout rate guy, just 2023, he had a 31-1 over 185 innings, 31 starts. 28-3 over 174 and 2/3 in 31 starts the year before that. We already saw a little bit of a decline last year in 181. We were all the way down at just 21.4% on a 10.5% swinging strike rate, just a 25.8% CSW. That's a big dip. A 10-point drop in strikeout rate year over year is concerning. A dip of this magnitude in swinging strike rate is fairly concerning. Same with just general strike throwing, call plus strike rate. Kind of problematic. If that trend continues, and I'm not saying that this is telling us anything about that, but 0 strikeouts is kind of concerning. And it's a, maybe early indicator that that is going to continue. But at least you're getting a decent mark by Stuff Plus. We're 10 points above the average. So the physics of his pitches are functional / good. Just not putting hitters away, just not getting the whiffs for whatever reason. Is he tipping pitches and they're just waiting on stuff? I'm not sure. A couple of home runs allowed has amounted to quite a bit of power. That barrel rate, the launch angle, the hard hit rate, the exit velo, all problematic so far in a tiny sample of batted ball events. But again, there is kind of a straight line through these conclusions. If he's not generating swing and miss, he's not striking people out, he's allowing a lot of contact, and it's getting hit as hard as it looks like it is. You can kind of, something is not working right there. Against the Red Sox lineup that's currently at a 24.4% strikeout rate, could he find it in an awful hurry tonight? Absolutely. That's why Kevin Gausman is on the board. 8,800, 8,500, fair price to throw some darts and find out on a small slate like this. You're definitely including Kevin Gausman if you're building a few lineups. It's just not a safe spot, and it's a pretty good offense on the other side. Red Sox drawing a 4.47 in a home game on the other side of this one. Jarren Duran up at the top of the lineup for 54.37. Always a good buy. Not exactly discounted for what you could call a minor slow start over 57 plate appearances. Again, we're in the third week of the season. 3 stolen bases on the board, a 68 WRC plus. There's nothing to worry about with Jarren Duran. It would just be nice if the sites had made him a little bit cheaper just for the hell of it, like they do with a lot of guys. Speaking of, Rafi Devers, 4,900 on DraftKings. There you go. 3,700 on FanDuel. They kept him fully priced, which is appropriate. Up to 244, 364, 378 after going 0 for his first 25 plate appearances or whatever it was. He's got a home run on the board. He's creating runs 13% better than average. Drawing a double-digit walk rate at 16.4% so far this season. He's actually made excellent contact now. We're up to a 21.4% barrel rate and a 71.4% hard hit in his limited number of batted ball events. That's really encouraging when his swing looked completely broken just 2 weeks ago. Remember, his fast swing rate over the very, very small sample that we talked about was at 12%. So, a little bit of life from Rafi Devers. Encouraging sign. Get him while he's cheap on DraftKings. That price is silly. $5,000 for Alex Bregman is perfectly fine. Second base and third base eligible. Same thing on FanDuel for 33. He's coming out of the gate pretty strong in Boston. 308, 345, 519, a 212 ISO. He's got 2 home runs on the board. He's stolen a bag. Making himself a little home here. 51.3% hard hit so far. He's squaring the ball up nicely. Looks like Alex Bregman in the low walk rate and a lot of contact. At least the last 2 years of Alex Bregman. Strikeouts are a little high so far, but I would expect that'll come down. Tristan Casas, major power upside for only 3,600 from the left side, going up against a pitcher who is potentially at least drawing a question mark for home run vulnerability right now. In his good year last year, Gausman was still allowing a 9.7% barrel rate, a 41.4% hard hit rate, 90.2 miles an hour of exit velo on a 16-degree average launch. All of this could easily have been a 4% home run rate. Understand that there is just some happenstance baked into some of this. Depends on the ballpark, a few other factors, what the weather was like, the temperatures, and so on and so forth. These different factors that can weigh in on something like that. And as you guys know, you're pitching in Yankee Stadium, a light fly ball could end up being a home run. Something they call a pop out to right field, ends up traveling over the wall. And you hear 29 other parks, that wouldn't have been a home run. That's how much happenstance comes into home runs. These are not good numbers in terms of allowing power, and that was all of last season. And then you go back the year before, and it's the same thing. A little bit lighter on the launch angle, but a significant barrel rate. 43.2% hard hits, nearly 90 miles an hour of exit velo. Little bit of happenstance coming through on his side. So definitely think we can target some power, and with Tristan Casas coming in at just 3,600 on DraftKings, that is an absolute blue light special kind of buy. I mean, that is a great purchase. I think you make that as a one-off. I definitely think you prioritize it in building Red Sox stacks. I probably should have made Tristan Casas the home run pick of the day now that I'm thinking about it. I think I used him already once, though, in the first couple of weeks. 6.15 in the home run model. Reason I like him, mashes the ball when he makes contact. 13% barrels each of the last 2 years, mid-40s hard hit rates each of the last 2. Draws good walk rates. So he's got upside for creating some runs even if he's not mashing the ball. So far this season, 15.4% barrels, 34.6% hard hits. We ignore the triple slash completely. We focus on the one home run that he's hit. We ignore the ISO. We ignore the WRC plus. And we just like that price. I like that bat a lot. 4,200 for Trevor Story. 2,900 on FanDuel. Highly, highly playable shortstop option. 2 home runs, 2 steals on the board. A 105 WRC plus. I am in no way convinced that Trevor Story has nothing left to give. I think there's tons of upside there. 4,200 is a great price. 2,900 is a very good price. 48.4% hard hit so far this season. He could, if he maintains any kind of health, he could have a very good year for this team. Willie Abreu, destroying baseballs early in the season. 17.9% barrels, 57.1% hard hits. Over 42 plate appearances, we're at 412, 524, 765. 3 home runs, a 353 ISO. Another lefty who makes extraordinarily good contact against a righty who might be tossing some batting practice type pitches up there today. Getting more enthusiastic as I'm talking the Red Sox lineup through looking at these prices a little bit. It's more a DraftKings thing. I feel like they're a little aggressively more inexpensive on DK, but good value on FanDuel as well. And they're a deep lineup. Christian Campbell has been really good to start his career. Over 46 plate appearances, 351, 457, 622, a 270 ISO, a pair of home runs, a stolen base. Welcome to the show, kid. David Hamilton, mix and match quality piece if he's in the lineup. Oh, he is in the lineup. This is the confirmed. And then Carlos Narvaez at the bottom of the lineup. It shortens the lineup a little bit, but that is a very solid, hyper-playable top 7. You can put those guys together in essentially any order, and you can get to any combination given how cheap these guys in the middle here are. Really like the Red Sox stack for upside as we're talking it through. I do think that we haven't seen the last of Kevin Gausman. I don't want to write him off. I don't want to focus only on the problems. There was, again, a lot of good in the career. But we already did start to see the decline last year. Look where Stuff Plus dipped to. The uptick in Stuff Plus is really encouraging if it holds. And again, Stuff Plus is one thing that does work in small samples. But on a short slate, if I had to, gun to my head, which side of this do I take? It's Red Sox bats over Gausman. So it's probably going to make it Red Sox bats, Blue Jays bats. Nah, not with the ground bowler, not with that short lineup. Red Sox bats, Tanner Houck, Blue Jays bats, Kevin Gausman. But all 4 corners, again, are playable. Tampa Bay's in, no Brandon Lau. Wah, wah, wah. Caminero up to second. Like that. All right, Angels and Rays just on time. So Coco Montez is in the lineup. It does not appear that he's on the DraftKings slate, so just be aware of that. There was another player, might have been on the earlier slate. There was somebody else. FanDuel doing a good job of keeping up with it, but it's more because they drop the entire league into their salary and then start trimming as games go on. They did the same thing for NHL, and then all of a sudden guys that were in there are no longer in there because they're not very good at it. So we'll see what happens. But right now, everybody's been on every FanDuel slate, and we've been missing guys here and there on DK, but they usually catch up by the next day. I think this is an interesting enough pitching matchup. You can see the Angels coming in at just a 3.74 against Ryan Pepio, who's got a 22.4% strikeout rate with excellent marks from Stuff Plus, a very good 12.7% swinging strike rate over his first couple of starts. 3.98 xFIP underneath the very solid 2.45 ERA. The xFIP is probably the more realistic number. I would expect something between 3.5 and 4.0 for Pepio for the season. I would be satisfied with that. I think we get more strikeouts in the long term, something like 25%, I think comes to fruition. The stuff is excellent. Last season, 26.3. We're already there. 4.05 xFIP with a 3.60 ERA. Again, something around these kind of numbers with a little bit of improvement in a few areas is exactly what I expect from this pitcher in the long term this year. Really like the arsenal. Think he can definitely find some swing and miss against this free swinging Angel squad. 24.6% strikeout rate so far for the confirmed lineup. 23.8 for this same group of hitters last year. 23.9 the year before. Pretty consistent in the mid-20s. So we're looking for like 1 in 4 strikeouts from Ryan Pepiot today. At 7,900 on DraftKings, that's a great purchase. I think if I'm building a DraftKings lineup as we're talking through just these first 2 games, like if you had made me put it in right now, I think my first 2 clicks, I'd be like Ryan Pepiot, Tristan Casas, just for those good prices. And then ownership, anything like that, be damned. It doesn't matter. I like those 2 bargains out of the gate here. And then you build around that. You could use Casas, as I said, as a one-off and grab stacks from other spots. You can grab the core stack and build it in there because you're getting such a nice discount. And you can take a decent upside pitcher. Really like those 2 first clicks. So, talking about the Angels' bats, it is a lineup that I've talked about a few times. It's the lineup that we think there's upside in. We got a little bit out of them last night, not quite where we wanted them to be, but it was an okay night. You've got power here. You've got good on-base skills, which is one of the things that I really like about this group. There is the strikeout downside that could feed Pepiot's upside, but I think you could mine a little bit of like light ownership here, especially in the middle where you've got Trout and Soler, 2 very realistic home run hitters, regardless of who's on the mound, both above the 10 mark in the home run model. So you're starting there. You've got a white-hot Logan O'Hoppe. Hot doesn't actually exist, but it's very nice to see a catcher start the season like this, especially following up a 20 home run season over 522 plate appearances. The power with Logan O'Hoppe is very real. So I think you can get him in combination with these guys as a 3-man. And now you're talking about, all right, I've got Mike Trout in my lineup, and I've got 2 true home run hitters with him in a minor league ballpark that's going to play up power all season long for $4,700 apiece. So I can get a nice $800 discount on my Mike Trout share. We're only paying a fair price for Soler and O'Hoppe. If Soler and O'Hoppe were both in here at 47, would you have batted an eye? I wouldn't have. So I think that's a nice little 3-man you can string together, and then you've got quality right up here. So if you wanted to just go 5-man direct down the line here, you're getting 3 outfielders, a catcher, and a first baseman, and now we're at 44.80, and we're putting Shanuel into that, who's got a pretty good stick, good on-base skills. We're putting Taylor Ward with his power upside, with his ability to get to first base in front of that. It's a really well-constructed little stack there. So I do think there's upside for the Angels. I think it's less apparent than it was last night. I don't think it's as good a spot as it was potentially last night. I would lean Pepiot in the dangling over a pit of vipers, and if I get it wrong, I drop in equation. I would lean Pepiot if I had to pick between him and the Angels offense. But they're at least on the board, despite that lowish Vegas total. The bottom half of that lineup is a little bit more problematic maybe, but we did get a big knockout of Kyron Paris last night. He's up to 3 home runs, 4 stolen bases, 524 ISO, mashing the ball with a 20% barrel rate, 60% hard hits. So we could probably at least consider him in the mix for second base shares at 2,800 if we need to cheapen this up even further. Joan Moncada, there's really not much there. He hasn't barreled the ball in his limited opportunities so far, only 26 plate appearances, so it's unfair to really criticize him, but he hasn't really done anything to draw the eye either other than just having this job. Tim Anderson, kind of the same thing after being dead for the last 2 seasons plus. He remains dead. Kevin Newman, 2,000, 2,200, also kind of dead at the bottom. Was never really all that much. Every now and then you get a home run or a stolen base type game out of him, but not much of a player. Dead Min Price as a step stool at second base. You could do it, but it's not that appealing against a good pitcher. Kikuchi at 83, 9,000. He's really interesting. Again, I got something tickling my nose. Sorry about that. Kikuchi, high strikeout pitcher over the last couple of seasons. Guy that I do like. 28% Ks last year. 4.05 ERA against a 3.20 xFIP. And it's funny. He's a guy that I like because I feel like he gets disrespected DFS-wise. He's typically at least affordable in decent spots. He's not crazy popular a lot of the time. And you can get very, very good games from him. You can also get major downside games from him. And so far, 6.12% home run rate. The home runs have always been a problem. We used to target this pitcher for home runs, and then he improved a little bit. We also used to target him a lot because he used to have absurd walk rates like that 12.8% over 20 starts and 102/3 innings back in 2022. Once he cut that in half, he became a much better pitcher overall, and the strikeouts became much more valuable. and you tolerated the power a little bit more. Remember what I was saying about Gaussman before, though? How those 9s and 40s and 90s in these columns could translate easily to a 4+ kind of a home run rate. Similar numbers, 386, 340, 507 over here with not all that dissimilar numbers, kind of disastrous that year. That was the year we really went after him for power upside. But he's wrangled his talent. Kudos to a few different pitching coaches that he's worked with. So far in LA, it's been kind of problematic. 4.50 ERA with a 4.93 xFIP, just 22.3% strikeout rate over his first 2 starts. He has gone 6 in both starts. Struck out 6 in his most recent. That was at St. Louis. 3 earned runs on 4 hits. Walked 5 in that game, though. Ugly. Give up 2 home runs in that game as well. First start, he at least didn't walk anybody. He gave up 3 earned on 5 hits. Gave up a homer. Struck out 5. That was against the White Sox, though. We were expecting a much better game. If you were here for that show, we were on him that day, and we were not happy with that result. But the 6th inning depth is easily there. There are strikeouts, despite a 19.8% strikeout rate to begin this season. If you look through the heart of the lineup here, it's a fair strikeout rate from last year, 23.9 for the highlighted guys. Yandy Diaz is never going to be a strikeout target at the top of the lineup. He's excellent at limiting Ks. He's excellent at getting to first base. He's got some power upside on his side for sure. They are loaded with right-handed bats. Decent amount of power coming against Kikuchi here. So that's why I think it's very much a two-sided equation. I like Kikuchi a lot. I will play him. 9,000 works for me. 8,300 most, particularly on DK. Very much works. Second or third highest projected pitcher on the slate. Second highest projected pitcher on the slate. But comes with a lot of that baggage. 4.35 implied total working against in a hitter-friendly park. So we're also going raise bats. As mentioned, Junior Caminero, we're getting home run number 2 out of him today. 34 plate appearances, 258, 294, 387. Just a 129 ISO. Just 1 home run so far. 11.59 in the home run model. What's encouraging about Caminero in the cup of coffee plus that we saw last year, excellent contact. Was good at limiting strikeouts, just 21.5%, 6.2% walk rate. So far this season, in a very small sample, that's improving. If he can maintain any kind of improvement in that from already excellent numbers, just out of the to start his career, it's a major, major talent. Love the power upside. 4,200 at third base is very cheap. 2,700 at third base is very, very cheap on FanDuel. I love the idea of occupying both corners with Yandy Diaz and Junior Caminero. On DraftKings, it kind of sucks that Curtis Mead is also a third baseman because you kind of want Curtis Mead in there too. Had a very hot spring, has not had a good first 15 plate appearances, but there's talent there. The fact that he's hitting third at a cheap price, he's very appealing, but it is a positional conflict on DK. Just pop him in at second base for 2,400 and roll with it on FanDuel. I like that quite a bit. Mead last season didn't show much of the talent. In 132 plate appearances, 1 home run, 2 stolen bases, a 67 WRC+. You can see Caminero hit 6 homers in his 177, had a 176 ISO, a 105 WRC+. As somebody mentioned in the chat, no Brandon Lau in the lineup with the lefty on the bump. I think that makes some sense. Chris Morel, we've talked about liking that swing a lot. A lot of barrels here. Excellent fast swing rate, excellent swing speed averages. Love the home run upside on any given slate for Chris Morel. 10.28. He's a very flawed hitter. You're going to get zeros out of Chris Morel. Hopefully he can continue drawing an aggressively good walk rate alongside his what's going to be a high strikeout rate. But we need to see that contact coming through. So far, no home runs on the board this year, just a .045 ISO. He's managed to create runs in a positive sense at 108 WRC+, but that's via a high walk rate and a 360 on base so far. We'll see how that holds. The 14.3% barrels is kind of what I'm focused on so far. Danny Jansen is a mix and match catcher. Jose Caballero can get on base and steal you a couple bags. He's already got 2 on the season against a 421 on base. Just a run creator, kind of a guy in the mix, but not really a priority as far as DFS scoring goes. Not really a realistic home run upside option. Coco Montez, I admit I have to pull up here on graphs. Coco is 28 now. 28 and a half. Colorado was where we saw him last. He's made, I guess he got into 1 game as a defensive replacement so far this year. Last season, 297 plate appearances in 2024 for AAA Colorado, which is Albuquerque. 9 home runs, 5 steals. 335, 414, 551. 2 seasons of 20-plus home run power in the minors. His age 25 and 26 season, he added mid-teens or low teens stolen bases. I don't think there's a lot to work with here. I feel like we would have had him by now if there was. He's not any kind of prospect. I think at best it's a quad A type player. Sometimes you do see those guys come up and pop a couple home runs, and then you never hear from them again. The dead min price, you could roll some dice on him at second base on FanDuel. It's not off the board, 4.34 in the home run model. There's a little bit of juice there. Jake Magnum is also a quad A type. Lower end, in my opinion. So far, over 28 plate appearances, though. He has stolen 5 bases. He is getting on base. He has been useful for DFS purposes. He's still very cheap. If you're stacking this from top to bottom, you can definitely use some Jake Magnum shares, but he is in no way an actual priority. You can see that in the home run number at 1.83. And then Taylor Walls is yet another contact speed-oriented guy. So they kind of got that rolling at the bottom of the lineup for them. Kind of excited about those top 4, or at least that's where I'd be focused. And then mixing and matching random shares from these guys. There's no real priority down here outside of the fact that Danny Jansen could just fill your catcher spot on DK. I guess we gotta go Rays bats, then Kikuchi, then Pepio, and then Angels bats. It's very close between the Rays bats and Kikuchi, though. I'm giving it the slight edge because of the power upside. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that in the past. The website is rotoscouts.com for anybody new out there. Check that out. It's under $1 a day, excuse me. Access to everything on the website. That is all of the baseball projections for every main slate is guaranteed. On days like today, where there's the big high volume, high prize pool days on DraftKings, I'm giving you the early projections too. Some days I'm not doing the rankings board for both slates. The product that I'm selling is the main slates. You get every main slate guaranteed. You're getting a lot of the early stuff too. Every main slate the rest of the way for NBA and NHL is also included in that all the way through the playoffs. We got a big NBA slate coming up tonight. Thank God the NBA is ending this weekend and going into the playoffs. Can't wait for a little bit of sanity there. But that's all included under $1 a day, guys, on a weekly, monthly, or quarterly plan at rotoscouts.com. So go check that out for me. Sign up over there. A lot of people joining up. We've had some great success, you guys, early in the baseball season. I just want to make another shout out here because it's so deserved. And Logan keeps dropping these killer screenshots into the Discord. Where is it? So if you're here yesterday, I was congratulating our guy Logan Grew on turning, what was it, like $50? Yeah, $54 in entry fees on FanDuel into $1,300 2 days ago. And then he comes back yesterday and he drops a screenshot. Looks like a DK screenshot. Was in for a bigger buy that day. He had an entry in the 888. He had an entry in maybe a few entries in $121 worth in another one. So it looks like he just took that, took about a G and tried to roll it up. And congrats, because he turned that G into $21,497.33 last night. Logan took down third in the 888 for $20K, seventh in a big single entry for another $1,000, seventh in the 10K skipper single entry for $183, fifth in another single entry for $150. This is one bullet, guys. Cole Ragans, Freddie Peralta combination. I'm damn sure we talked about that. Rhys Hoskins, Brandon Lau, Junior Caminero, Taylor Walls, Jackson Churio in Coors Field, Contreras, Christopher Morel, Cameron Misner. A lot of names we discussed on this show. A lot of guys who were projecting pretty damn well yesterday. Congrats. Congrats to Logan. That is an awesome result. Keep it up, man. You've been crushing the beginning of the season. And I know, I'm not, I'm saying that, a lot of guys we talked about, that guy just makes good lineups. He knows what he's doing, and he's doing it right. So, killer job out there, buddy. That's all you. Congratulations. Well done. Let's keep on moving.
Let me drop the Discord link in there real quick, if it works. It's been problematic. Let me just do what I did yesterday. Yep, that didn't work either. I don't know why this is such a pain in the ass. Copy. Ha! There we go. There's the Discord. Discord's free to all. You don't have to be a subscriber to jump into the Discord. Hop on in, stir the pot, talk to the people. It's a really good little community in there, and we're trying to grow it. All right, let's go to the next game. Thought I'd already clicked it. Phillies at the Braves. Do we have the Phils lineup yet? Do not. We do get the Rockies, though. Grab that. Come on. So this is a spot where I definitely think we're looking more bats than pitching. But if you do want a pitcher from this game, I think we're dealing with Grant Holmes pretty much the whole way. I just don't have that much esteem for Taijuan Walker. Neither does the model. Doesn't project very well at all against a hard-hitting Brave squad. A lot of guys with exactly one home run so far for the Braves, but it's been slow to get really rolling. I think they had a good one, 2 days ago? But it's been a little slow for the Braves, which is kind of concerning following up a down season, as mentioned, for everybody not named Marcell Ozuna in this lineup last year. But they're going to add one of the best players in the whole world sometime late next month and probably take off like a rocket from there if they can maintain any kind of closeness in the standings between now and then. So I'm not writing this Braves team off. We've got two guys in the heart of the lineup above a 10 in the home run model. We've got Austin Riley, good enough for me as to call it a 10, an 8.63 on Mikey Harris, 7.46 on Ozzie Albies, 7.11 on a healthy again Sean Murphy down the bottom of the lineup. Even Brian De La Cruz and Jared Kelenic are really interesting down lineup. So this remains a good 9-man team, and they're just cheap now because of all these struggles. Much more so on DraftKings, where nobody's more than 4,700, which is insane. 3,700 for Marcell Ozuna on FanDuel, and then you got the obvious guys in the low threes, rather than like if those DraftKings prices were translated, those guys would be in the twos somewhere. So those are aggressively cheap on DK, I feel like. And they're going up against a guy who, not that much to talk about, 15.2% strikeouts against 9.7% walks over 83 and 2/3 in 15 starts last year, a 7.10 ERA against a 5.29 xFIP. Sure, this is nearly 2 runs better than that, but this is still awful. That's not encouraging at all. A 6.7% swinging strike rate. So, like, if I go up there, maybe he'll make me swing and miss 3 times, but a major league hitter, probably not. 13.4% barrels, 46.3% hard hits, a 6.30% home run rate against. My God, the numbers ought to be higher for the Braves. So for me, no Taijuan Walker. I think you probably picked up on that. Definitely interested in some Braves bats. And then Grant Holmes at just 65 is at worst playable over here. I'm not sure about this. It's very, very cheap. Did we get 6? Yeah, we only got 4 in his second start. Or his first start, his second appearance. His first appearance was just a relief inning. He faced 3 hitters. We only got out to 4. He only faced 19 hitters the last time around. Struck out 3, walked 4. Home run on the board, gave up 4 earned on 4 hits. Not a great day. We're just projecting out 5. I think I gave him like 5 1/3. It's probably worth a couple darts on DraftKings, but you're playing with fire going up against a very good Phillies lineup. You're just doing it as a cheap step stool. That's why I don't really like it on FanDuel, where the pitcher spot matters a lot more because it's just the one bite at the apple, and even if he's cheap, if he completely goes bust, there's really nothing to cling to. I do think you can use him as the apple box guy on DraftKings. In 64 1/3 last season, 6 starts, some relief appearances. It's very solid 3.78 ERA, a 3.62 xFIP, just a 5.2% walk against 23.5% strikeouts, a dominant 15.7% swinging strike rate, which is something to focus on. A little bit of contact, a little bit of an exit velo, a little bit of a launch angle, was okay for home runs, some happenstance in there that could easily continue to be at this number for most of the season. The concerning thing in that would be that despite the aggressively good swinging strike numbers, not great marks from Stuff Plus as far as like what the physics of the pitches look like. So once the book catches up a little bit as a starter, once you get stretched out a little bit as a starter where you're getting lower effort pitches over a longer period of time and seeing more of those pitches, that could get problematic if the stuff isn't really there. As mentioned early in the show, it looked good during the spring, but first couple outings, just a 93 is concerning. But that would be the lean. It would just be over here if you're going to use him. Much more interested in bats on either side. Kyle Schwarber with a 10.42 in the home run model. He's got 5 on the season. Did he hit 2 yesterday or just 1? No, he got 1. Forget whether it was 1 or 2. But an obvious masher up at the top of the board. Would have been very easy to make him the home run pick of the day today, too, going up against this pitcher. 21.4% barrels in, 67.9% hard hits out of Schwarb so far. Doing Kyle Schwarber things. All he does is mash baseballs, draw walks, and strike out. And, well, probably also eat like cheesesteaks or whatever, but excellent for DFS options, especially in the leadoff spot, which is where he belongs. I hope they continue to do that. They were dabbling with him and Trey Turner, moving him down to 4. Leave him alone in the leadoff spot. It's where he ought to be. Turner, 52.36. Good prices for one of the top shortstops in baseball. 250, 364, 286. Getting on at a very good clip. The 4 stolen bases are nice. We just need to see him start hitting the ball a little bit more. Hasn't barreled anything yet. 19% hard hits is not all that great in a very limited number of batted ball events. 21.2% Ks is fine. 15.2% walks is great. That's the strikeouts is kind of in line with his typical numbers already. So at worst, I think there's fairly priced. Trey Turner is who he is kind of a day. You're absolutely including him in most of your Philly stacks if you're building with them. I think he's a very playable one-off at shortstop on a 5-game slate, which, what else do we have at short? We do have Bobby Witt. We do have Bo. Who am I missing? Tovar was the other guy. It's Bobby Witt if I have to pick a one-off in that group. But I think Trey's second. And those are not unfair prices. Bryce Harper at 51 is aggressively cheap on DraftKings. FanDuel, $3,900. That's fully priced Bryce Harper. You can easily get there. He's got a home run on the board, 275, 356, 400, a 125 ISO is obviously not where we want that number to be, but he's created a run 16% better than average in the tiny number of plate appearances so far. The lingering concern with Harper, as I mentioned yesterday, was that the power was just kind of out through the last 2 months, last month and a half of last season. So it's something to watch, and he hasn't started off on a great foot in that department. But again, it's been 2 weeks, a week and change, whatever it's been. So we're not worried. We're just enthused about that cheap price on DK. They're getting silly about dropping these prices. Alec Boehm at just 4,500, 2,900 is just very cheap for his talent, full stop, across both sites. 52.9% hard hits if you need a good indicator from his minimal number of plate appearances so far. Everything else has kind of sucked, but last year, 15 home runs, a very solid 283, 32, 448 with a 115 WRC plus, and plenty of room to grow. He's not a 25 home run guy even. He's certainly not a 30 home run guy, but I could see him getting 20. And for these kind of prices, that kind of bat, hitting cleanup with the on-base skills for the 3 hitters immediately in front of him, it's just going to be opportunity after opportunity all season long. I think I've referred to him as a right-handed Vinny Pasquantino in the past, and I kind of stand by that. They also just benefit from the same skill, the low strikeout rate against a fairly low walk rate, where they're just putting excellent bat on ball highly consistently with several very good guys at getting on base ahead of them. That benefited Pasquantino to no end last year when it comes to just the stupid back of the baseball card RBI stat. Not something we really count or talk about all that often at all because it's just nothing to do with the actual individual hitter or his talent. But in that lineup spot with that skill set in front of him and with his particular set of skills, Liam Neeson, it's a very interesting hitter when you can build him into stacks at these prices. 45.29, very cheap. Nicky Castellanos, Max Kepler don't give you very much of anything that I just talked about Alec Boehm, except for a little bit more power upside, but they're wildly inconsistent hitters. Castellanos, I would say, is probably right now the better of the two, but it's a lefty-righty that are going to do similar things throughout the season. They're going to put some zeros in your lineups. They'll hit you the occasional home run. We'll see what Max Kepler looks like. It's been an on and off over the last few years for him. Castellanos is going to come in with his 18 to 24 home runs, something in that territory. 2 on the board already at 257 ISO. He's easily playable, so is Kepler. Play the mix and match game with those two players against this pitcher. If you need a lean, Kepler is a lefty against the righty. I think maybe you could squeeze something there. JT Realmuto, highly playable catcher, especially at 41 where the position's required. Just don't ask questions. Just fire away with JT Realmuto unless we grow concerned later in the season. Only 31 plate appearances so far this year. 14 home runs last year, 109 WRC plus. Consistently in the lineup, over 400 plate appearances. He's not a 500 plus plate appearance catcher anymore, but that's much more season-long concern than it is for us. As long as he's in the lineup, go for it. And then Bryson Stott and Brandon Marsh. Stott, a little bit of pop, a little bit of speed. 1 home run on the board so far this year, 103 WRC plus. Needs to push the on-base skills, continue to use his speed. Brandon Marsh, I've talked about a bunch over the years. Like him a lot from the bottom of this lineup, given his excellent ability to get on base and just reset the table for those guys up top. 328 on base last year, 372 over 472 plate appearances the year before that. Truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but if you can get a guy down here with a little bit of power upside, some excellent hard hit and barrel skills down the bottom of the lineup, just drawing walks and resetting for those guys up there, adding to the pile of guys that could potentially benefit Alec Boehm, and just being part of that churn in the second, third, fourth, and fifth times through this lineup if all things go well. It's a great spot for 3,300, 2,700. That is an ideal kind of a wraparound guy because he's got individual attributes for power as well. Well, it's 4 o'clock. There goes any illusions of getting out of here by 4:15. Anyway. Braves lineup. Love the power upside from Matt Olson for 4,700. As mentioned, they are very cheap on DraftKings. 3,300, easy to pay for Matt Olson on FanDuel as well. 10.55 in the home run model. You pair him with Marcell Ozuna at 11.05. Ozuna's got a home run on the board. Top 7 hitters in this lineup, top 6 hitters in this lineup all have exactly 1 home run. Murphy's only made 4 plate appearances out of the guys who have made more than 10 plate appearances. Only Olson and Ozuna are above average for run creation so far this season. You just ignore all of these 40 plate appearance samples. And we kind of got to go back to 2 years ago and just look at the excellence that we got out of all of these guys. And we got to remember that some of these guys, we've got longer track records with that of excellence. Ozzie Albies is one. Matty Olson is one for the power upside. Austin Riley was 30 home runs consistently 3 years running before last year when he was injured. I trust this Braves team to get it figured out. I trust this Braves team immensely against Taijuan Walker, and especially when they're this cheap. I do think they're going to be popular on DK. I'm hoping a little less so at those prices on FanDuel. Golfius says, Springer time. I like the upside. I made him. He was the home run pick from the Blue Jays today. Not the overall home run pick, but he was the guy I picked from the Blue Jays. I'm encouraged by the start. Again, formerly a very, very good player. Michael Harris, 250, 263, 389. Obviously, some improving to do if he is going to stay at the top of the lineup, but he's a solid 25-25 type player with upside for more than that in a full season. 3,800, 2,800 for that type of guy up top is very cheap. Getting him ahead of Ozzie Albies, Marcell Ozuna, Austin Riley, Matt Olson, it's just a boon to everything about his upside in general. So love him in that spot. He'll lose it once Acuna comes back, and he'll go back to the bottom of the lineup. But for right now, fire away with Michael Harris shares. He belongs in most of your Brave stacks. Albies belongs in most of your Brave stacks, or the vast majority of them. 4,300 on DraftKings is way too cheap for this talent at second base. Just 1 home run on the board this year. He hit 33 home runs 2 years ago. He was hurt and in and out of the lineup all of last year. Just ignore last year. This is too good of a player to be this cheap against this pitcher. Absolutely love the Albies spot. If you're just thinking in terms of like random guys and you just want to assemble a lineup of random guys, that's now my second baseman to go with the Tristan Casas at first base and whoever the pitcher I named was. Cheap price for Ozzie Albies. 3,200 on FanDuel is cheap in and of itself, but it's not as cheap as 43 on DraftKings. Love Riley, 20.8% barrels, 45.8% hard hits. We're making decent contact to start the year. That's all we really need to see. The home runs will come, the power will come, the average will come around a little bit, and we'll get a more consistent producer. Right now, it's been kind of problematic, but you're definitely just going there, and he's discounted for the early slow start and the bumpy year last year. Murphy was hurt for most of the beginning of this. Well, most of the beginning of the season is 2 weeks. So for the first 2 weeks, he's made 4 plate appearances. He's already got a home run on the board. This is a true power hitter of a catcher. At 3,400, that's a bargain for his talent where you have to play the position. At 26, just play him like he's a second first baseman on this team. Use him and Matt Olson in the lineup. It's perfectly fine on FanDuel. And then I mentioned liking Brian De La Cruz, Jared Kelenic, and kind of Orlando Arcia at the bottom of the lineup, although he hasn't really done much of anything in the last 2 seasons at all. Kelenic, I still think is going to develop into a true player. I really, really do. There's just too much here in the barrels and the hard hits over the last 2 seasons, even while he has not been very good. There's too much talent there. There's too much just apparent skill that's coming through in ways to not have it get figured out. I just think he needs time. 2,200 is a great price for the power upside. Lefty bat against a terrible righty who gives up home runs. Really love Jared Kelenic as a cheap, sneaky option today. 5.67 in the home run model. It's mediocre. He's got 1 on the board this season, but there's power there. Brian De La Cruz is a righty bat with solid power skills as well. I would say more line drive oriented than true home run upside. 19 2 years ago, though. 21 last year. It's kind of what Jared Kelenic aspires to be. Not expires, aspires to be. Arcia is just cheap at the bottom. Yeah, he's another guy where a couple seasons ago he was interesting. 17 home runs, 99 WRC plus, but was cheap, was always very low owned, and was coming through. Last year kind of fell apart. This year, nothing over 17 plate appearances, but that's not a relevant sample. This game very much goes Braves, Phillies. Neither pitcher, but if you have to do it, it's Grant Holmes on DraftKings. Oh, and the Phillies lineup is in, and it is, I believe, exactly what we were looking at there. All right, Sean Kiersey making an appearance here. All right. What is his handedness? Lefty. Got to work him into the model here. 1 sec. Oop. Let's open up some spots. You can see how long I've been just using this one location. Michael King, Evan Carter right there. All right. A little bit of room there. This is where the hands go. And what did I say? Lefty? Yeah. Oh, and he's not on either slate. How about that? Just want to make sure of that. He is there. Oh, he's a junior. All right. What's going to be the quickest way to do this? I won't set up the whole... Hey, what am I doing? There he is. There we go. All right. We got him. Dead min price on both sites. How about that? 2.32 in the home run model against Seth Lugo, who doesn't really give up many home runs. That's the one thing that working against the Twins here. But you can see they rate out fairly well up top. A little bit less so with no Byron Buxton now from where they were when I rated out for the stacks board. So I would ding them a little bit from where I had them there. But I still do think it's a good lineup. I think you're getting decent value prices against a very gettable starter. I know Lugo competed for a Cy Young last year on the surface numbers. I'm aware of that. 3.0 ERA, fine. 3.83 xFIP, though. Already a little bit of a blip. 9.5% swinging strike rate. A little bit of a blip. 39% hard hits, 88.5 miles an hour of exit velo, perfectly fine. 8% barrels is serviceable. He's okay at keeping the ball at a moderate launch, 10.7 last year, 9.9 the year before, 11.1 over a few batted ball events so far this year. Okay, strikeout to walk guy, eats plenty of innings. He's fine. This is a good real-life pitcher, but he's kind of a non-threatening DFS entity. He'll strike out 1 in 5-ish. You'll get the 1 in 4 type games every now and again. And there are definitely strikeouts to be had against this Twins team. But I like their quality. I think a lot of Matt Wallner at the top of the lineup is a power bat with upside for more than just a power bat. So far this year, he hasn't hit any homers, but we're at 294, 400, 471 to start the season. Last season, over 261 plate appearances, 13 long balls, 259, 372, 523. That's a highly skilled quarter of a season. More than a quarter of a season, pushing a half a season. 4,000, 2,800 for a big lefty bat like that, going up against a righty who's at least, at worst, contact-oriented. He had a 17.5% barrel rate with 53.2% hard hits last year. You're going to just let him go up there and make some contact? I like it. Willie Castro, cheap, flexible positioning, serviceable, a little bit of medium-grade power, a little bit of medium-grade speed. A DFS contributor across categories, especially when he's up there at the second spot in the lineup. 126 WRC plus with a 206 ISO over 39 to start the season. He's not going to maintain that production, but he's very playable on any given slate if we're going to Twins. Carlos Correa hits the ball extremely hard. He's already right in line with where he's been over the last handful of seasons. 9.1, 45.5, 9.1, 44.5, 9.6, 45.9. Can you get more consistent than this? 16.3 and 7% strikeouts and walks. 16.6, 10.9. Higher the year before that. But I mean, the picture of consistent excellence for 4,100, 3,200. Yeah, it hasn't translated into great production so far at 150, 209, 225. I care so much more about this side of it and the quality and frequency with which he's making contact than I do that he's squared up a few atom balls that happen to get caught. He keeps doing what he's doing. He's going to be perfectly fine to finish the season. Last season, remember, over 367 plate appearances, 310, 388, 517, 207 ISO, 14 home runs. Just double that for it's 28 home runs, 200 plus ISO, 150s WRC plus. Maybe he doesn't hit 300 all season, but 280s, 290s. Carlos Correa has never not been good. Never not been good. Great sentence, asshole. Double negative. 41.32 is just cheap, too. He's cheap enough to find out. He doesn't even need to consistently be good at that price, and he is consistently good. Larnach at 35.27. A lot of power upside there as well. He's a 5.49 in the home run model today. Fairly low strikeout for the talent. 22.3% Ks last year against 10% walks this year. Or against 10% walks. This year it's 10% walks, 17.5% strikeouts over his first 40 plate appearances. Last season, 15 home runs and 40 chances. 175 ISO. Good run creator. Year before, 8 home runs and just 212 opportunities. It's a realistic lefty bat for just 35-27. Ty France is a mix and match quality first baseman who really hasn't done much all of last year and so far this year. You can work him into some twin stacks. He's good for a line drive here and there. He might knock in a few runs, but your home runs, your true big scores are pretty few and far between these days. Edward Julian is interesting. A lot of good left-handed bat on ball there. It's going to be tons of Ks. He can draw walks fairly effectively, though, at this level. Going to be one to watch with consistent plate appearances. Been in and out of the lineup so far to start the season. Over 23 plate appearances, no home runs, 190, 261, 238 with a .048 ISO and a 49 WRC+. There's nothing to get excited about there. Has barreled 20% of his batted ball events. It's probably, 4 out of 8 batted ball events, or 4 out of 8 would be great. It's, you know what I mean. It's 2 out of 10 batted ball events. Bader, similar batted ball numbers. That won't hold. 3 home runs on the board. He'll be lucky if he finishes with 12 to 15. He's just not an upside player. Kiersey, let's pull up the minors, though. Last season, over 505 AAA plate appearances for Minnesota. 14 home runs, 36 steals while slashing 300, 368, 476. Created runs 19% better than average. In 2023, across multiple levels of the minors, similar numbers: 15 homers, 39 steals, created runs 14% better than average, 294, 366, 455. He's 27. He's almost 28. So we're dealing with not even post-hype, because the hype was never really big. There's at least minor league numbers here to support the idea that maybe it's a little bit more than your quad A type guy. But the degree to which we want to really get excited about it, outside of the fact that you can buy those numbers at a dead min price in the outfield, probably temper expectations a little. Christian Vasquez, 22-23. Not a lot to talk about this season. Not a lot to talk about from the last few seasons. But you can always work him in. He's a lower-end version of Martin Maldonado at the bottom of the lineup at catcher. Look at Vinny. Remember what I said about the RBIs? It's already up to 10. Look at that. Last season, in just 554 plate appearances, he had 97, which is, 109 in 709. 104 in 652. Dude's an RBI machine because of how frequently he puts bat on ball. Again, we do not care about the RBI stat, but we'll take it. 14.3% strikeouts, 7.1% walks so far this season. 12.872, 11.996 the last 2 years. He can draw walks, but most often he's just putting good bat on ball. So far this year, the quality hasn't even totally been there. 45.8% hard hit last year, 40.1 the year before. So far this year, just 28.1, but the barrels are up, which is something we've been chasing with this hitter the last couple seasons. He's got 1 home run on the year, just slashing 189, 262, 378 with a 69 WRC plus over 42 meaningless plate appearances. We'll get there. It's an encouraging start, I think, given a little tiny uptick in barrels in an irrelevant tiny sample. Sal Perez at 10.3% barrels with 1 home run on the board. We know that Sal's going for 20 plus into the 25 range and possibly beyond, but 25 I would say at an expectation. Jonathan India just needs to continue getting on base like he is, 396 on base. That will look like a very good season if he just does that all year. He can also give you 15 home runs, 15 steals across a full season, so he's a good DFS contributor. He's much more of a stack contributor, though. You definitely don't want to be one-offing Jonathan India all that frequently. If you're going to do it for 2,800 at second base on FanDuel. He's much more a component in stacks, given what his skill set is, getting on base and being a guy who gets driven in by the excellent RBIs guys to follow. Bobby Witt, a 205 ISO already this season. 3 stolen bases, creating runs 22% better than average. 32 homers, 31 steals last year. Was one of the top players in baseball. Almost a lock to continue to compete for MVPs for the next few seasons if he stays healthy. Michael Massey, a playable $3,800, $2,700 second base bat from the left side. A little bit of upside there against a right-handed pitcher, but Joe Ryan is very, very good on the other side of this game, which is the thing I haven't talked about yet in this equation. But I do think if you're taking Royals bats, if you're taking a little shot at that 4-run total, if you're taking a shot at their low strikeouts and their consistency of putting bat on ball, Michael Massey can be included in that conversation. The bottom of the lineup gets thinner for that, especially against a good strikeout pitcher like Michael Massey. That's where some of the Ks are lurking here. Some around Hunter Renfroe, a little bit on the bottom of the lineup with Kyle Isbell down there, although he was just 20% last year. Kevin Biggio can definitely strike out, 32.1% last year, 26% the year before. Michael Garcia is good at putting bat on ball, but just the effectiveness can come and go a little bit. We love the stolen base upside. We think there's lurking power there, but we need to see it really come through. He's got 2 home runs on the board, 342 on base. He's created runs 52% better than average, and he has been hitting the ball hard, which is very encouraging in the small sample. But we're not getting excited yet, not allowing ourselves to. 46, DraftKings is getting a little excited about him. It's a little bit expensive. 3,000 on FanDuel, you could argue the same thing. But the quality in this group is really there, and it's truly right there. Might be a better FanDuel stack than a DraftKings stack, or it's a 3-man DraftKings stack maybe, but then you're making a Sophie's Choice in there. So let's talk Joe Ryan. 95-93 projects out as one of the top 2-3 pitchers on the slate, top pitcher on the slate. Even against a fairly low strikeout Royals lineup, I think there's plenty of talent involved for Joe Ryan. I think there's definitely upside. First start, struck out 5, went 5, allowed 5 hits. Numerology coming through there. That was against the Cards. Give up 1 earned run. Didn't walk anybody. Has not walked anybody yet this season. Just 5 innings in the second start of the year. That was against the Astros. Faced 21 hitters exactly in that one. Gave up exactly 5 hits. 4 earned runs this time. That came on 2 home runs. 6 strikeouts, no walks. Still a decent start. Stuff Plus likes what the Arsenals look like so far. 5 points above average, which is an uptick from where he was last year. That's maintaining his quality that we saw in the spring. He was really flashing some uptick in stuff over the spring. 2 years ago, he struck out 29.3% against a 5.1% walk rate, but gave up a lot of home runs. Last season, we cut the home runs, we cut the power allowance down. We maintained the good walk rate. We lost a little bit of strikeout put-away stuff, a little bit of swinging strike rate, but actually had a higher 29.6% CSW. In the small sample so far this year, even higher CSW, not walking anybody. Little minor haircut so far in strikeout rate, swinging strike rate, a larger haircut. Something to watch. But if it's just a product of some of the changes he's making as the stuff develops, as he becomes a different type of pitcher, there might be some good trade-off there. And I still think easily 1 in 4 strikeouts is available, even against the 18.8, the 19.1, the 20.5 that this confirmed version of the Royals lineup has put up over the last 3 years. Definitely some upside there for Joe Ryan. Hyper playable option, 95, 93. He's expensive. I don't know how popular he's going to look. Let's see. Come on. Short slate, pretty popular. But it's a day where the top 6 options are all within 10 points of one another. And most of the separation is about 5 points. Just one guy offset at the top. And not by a lot. Probably the same thing on DraftKings. So Ryan's going to be one of the top 2-3 owned pitchers, but we care a lot less about the ownership on a slate like this. Yeah, same mix on DraftKings. Further down the board, but it's essentially at exactly the same numbers. Him, Kevin Gausman, Grant Holmes. Holmes is drawing a little bit of popularity at that cheap price. I would say this goes... I guess I got to give it to Ryan at the top. I don't know that I want to. And then this Twins lineup without Buxton. This is like a 4-way tie, or it's like a 3-way tie between the Twins, the Royals bats, Joe Ryan, and then Seth Lugo's a little further down the line there. But I think I would go Joe Ryan, Twins bats, Royals bats, Seth Lugo if I had to actually rank it out. Projections bear that out, obviously, on the pitcher. Last one up, Coors Field. You'll forgive me for not really getting into these pitchers, I think. Tyler Alexander did shock the world last time out. If you remember, I was saying he'll go 3. He was a extended opener after 2 relief appearances. Ended up pitching 5 2/3 in that game. It was against the Reds. Who saw that coming? Scoreless, hitless innings, struck out 6, walked 3 over 5 2/3, faced 21 hitters in that game. Standout performance, totally shocked me. I gave him 6 here. And he only projected out to like 19 points on FanDuel and sub 10 on DraftKings with the park factors and everything working against him. And I don't know for sure that we're getting anything approaching 6 innings. I don't think there's much quality here. I don't think there's anything to really consider rostering at Coors Field today outside of bats. 5 implied total, 5.5 implied total. Sometimes you just follow the numbers. Actually, we always follow the numbers, but sometimes you just follow the very, very obvious trail of numbers that Vegas is leaving for us. Sensatella, there's absolutely nothing to see here. 13% strikeouts and 14% walks in 3 starts last year. 13% strikeouts and 6% walks in 2 starts the year before. Last time we had him for anything resembling a sample was back in 22. 19 starts, 92 in a third innings, 13% strikeouts, 5% walks, 5.07 ERA, plenty of hard hits and barrels. It's not a quality pitcher. Brewers bats are a big yes. Rockies bats are a fairly enthusiastic yes. If we're rostering Brewers, their lineup is not yet confirmed. They're going to be very popular despite some very high prices. But I do think at the bottom of the lineup, Sal Frelick at 41 is at worst functional. He's more a base hit speed type guy. Rhys Hoskins is a major source of power for just 46 at first base. 10.24 in the home run model today. He hasn't been the Rhys Hoskins of old over the last 2 seasons, but still definitely can crush the ball. 34 on FanDuel is pretty cheap for Coors Field, but it's nowhere near as cheap as the DraftKings price. And you get to Oliver Dunn at 3,000, 2,700 just as a step stool to help you get to the other bats. Garrett Mitchell, who's actually talented in cross categories for a little bit of power, a little bit of speed, for 39, 31. Joey Ortiz, who's very playable. Shortstop eligible at DraftKings is not ideal for 4,000, but I'll take it given the price discount at Coors Field. Third base, second, and shortstop eligible on FanDuel is dynamite. He had 11 home runs, stole 11 bases in 511 plate appearances last year. He created runs 4% better than average while getting on at a 329 clip. At the absolute worst, Joey Ortiz is a really, really reasonable wraparound option in the highest appeal stack of the day. And he's not going to be that popular. So there are ways to string this together using the bottom of these lineups that people just aren't doing enough. And those are the lineups that are going to win you tournaments. So I really don't see this Brewers team being priced off the board nearly at all. Obviously, all the skill is up at the top. Bryce Terang's off to a very good start with 3 homers, 2 steals, a 340 on base. He's created runs 43% better than average. He's crushing the ball in an uncharacteristic way over a limited number of batted ball events. I doubt this holds in this territory, given that. But maybe somewhere in the middle. 8% barrels wouldn't be completely wild. Jackson Chourio could maintain this all season. He is that good. 3 home runs on the board, 306, 300, 633 with a 327 ISO, 151 WRC+. The kid legitimately could compete for a National League MVP in his second season. He is literally that talented. Christian Yelich, 57, 41, 2 homers, 2 steals on the board. Another guy, kind of like what I said about Carlos Correa, he's never been bad. Always has hit the ball hard. Always has been low strikeout. Always on base, creating runs. Christian Yelich is a great option at even at these prices. At 57, fine. He should probably be over 6. 41 is correct on FanDuel. William Contreras, one of the best catcher bats in the best overall ballpark. Just buy that catcher share if you can afford it at 52. Even just as a one-off, even if he's popular, just take the option. Take the free point or the community points. Win in other spots in your lineup if you're going to one-off your catcher. So far this year, 143, 286, 229. Half the average player when it comes to run creation. I think we focus on last year's 131 WRC plus. His 23 home runs, his 281, 365, 466. He's fantastic. On the Rockies side, we've talked this lineup through a few times already this season. Brenton Doyle up at the top for 5,000, 3,700, especially in home games. There's a ton of speed there. There's high-quality contact. There's a little bit of power, a little bit of stolen base upside. He hit 23, stole 30 last year, 97 WRC+, plus, largely due to not getting on base with tremendous consistency, but a 317 on base is all right. 260 on the front end of the slash line is good. 186 ISO is good enough, especially from a guy who is capable of hitting leadoff. Sean Bouchard, a little bit of a mix and match piece. He's got a home run on the board already this season. We do like the power pedigree from the minors, if I'm remembering them correctly. 4 home runs 2 years ago and 43 plate appearances. Uh, 11 over 208 plate appearances last year with a 318 ISO in AAA, but this is as a 28-year-old. He's another one of these more quad A types. Back in 2022, which is probably the year I was thinking of, 312 plate appearances in AAA, 20 home runs and 12 stolen bases over that sample is pretty good. 335 ISO, 300, 404, 635 with a 150 ISO WRC plus. So again, an advanced age to be like this inexperienced at the major league level, but that's why he's 3,000. That's why he's 2,800. He's hitting second today. He's got a 7.62 in the home run model. Just take the power upside and run with it for a cheap price. Ezekiel Tovar, tons of whiffs, but also some power. So far this year, no home runs on the board. Hasn't really gotten on base effectively. Last season, 26 home runs. That's about all he did, but he hit the ball pretty consistently hard. 26 homers, 200 ISO. If you're up there just swinging the bat as aggressively as possible, every now and then you're going to hit a home run. That's kind of what he is, or a double. It's kind of what he is. But he's effective. 37 is high on FanDuel. 47 is not that bad on DraftKings. Honestly, if we're looking at the Rockies, that top 5, 4,200 apiece for some quality bats. And honestly, you could dip down to like Talia down there. Go like 1, 2, 3, skip Tovar. Like that. And you're at 41. And now I've got a lineup long stack that's outfield, 2 outfielders, first base, third base, and catcher. I like the looks of that stack. 4,100 apiece at Coors Field with monster power upside. Michael Talia is a monster power hitter. Hunter Goodman is a monster power hitter. Potentially. Both guys get the potentially asterisk. We need to see the consistency. We need to see the continued growth. But those guys absolutely have that bat. Ryan McMahon is a producer. 20 home runs last year, a mediocre overall season, but can come and go. And anytime we're getting him in a home game, you definitely can go there. Lefty, what have the numbers looked like lately? There's always been a decline in same-handed plate appearances. Last year, six of his 20 home runs, a 142 ISO, a 96 WRC plus. Slash line was better against same-handed pitching at 261, 337, 403, and so was the WRC plus mark. Year before, it was much more the other way. 263, 45, 481 with a 221 ISO, a 109 WRC plus against righties, and then disaster 191, 264, 309 with a 117 ISO and a 44 WRC plus against same-handed pitching. That was 449 plate appearances versus 178 plate appearances. So there have been historical problems, lefty for McMahon, but this is not much of a lefty to really sweat it. At that price, I think you can absolutely include him. He helps average down. He was in that stack that I just built. Our pal Gundacker jumping in. Check out the MLB grind with Gundacker when you get a chance as well, guys. Corbin Carroll over 6.5 to 7.5 fantasy points on Prize Picks every day is my drug. That seems like a real winner to me. I love that. With that skill set, apparently he just hit a home run. There you go. Gophis also likes So Hoppy. Definitely can fire that up. All right, so rounding this thing out, we've got all that power to work with for the Rockies. Several of these guys are showing it too, right? Talia, 9.22. If he was hitting up here, that would be 10 plus. 11.57 on Hunter Goodman is a pretty solid mark. Several 8s for Tovar. McMahon through the middle. Not a bad mark for Sean Bouchard, who, again, there is minor league power, quad A type power upside there. Take the Crash Davis home run and just work with it. 3,000, 2,800 is an excellent price. Chris Bryant has been dead for the better part of the last couple of seasons. Him, like Javi Baez, a couple other, Tim Anderson, a couple other guys out on Anthony Rendon Island. 3,800, 3,100 across sites. At least he's cheap. I hate talking this way about him because he's a player I always like, but there really isn't much to cling to anymore. 2 homers last year, 10 the year before in 335 plate appearances, 5 the year before that in 181. We haven't seen much of him, and what we have seen has not been good. Zach Veen at 3,000, 2,700 over 4 plate appearances. He's gotten 1 hit, 27 WRC plus. But when we looked at him the other day, he's got a little bit of prospect upside as well. This is a real kid, 23 years old. 270 plate appearances last year, 11 home runs, 21 steals, 202 ISO, 118 WRC plus. Keep in mind this is the PCL when we're talking about Colorado minor league numbers for AAA players, but those are very good numbers in a half a season or a third of the season. Got very good skill set for DFS. Going back to 2022 in high A, 11 home runs and 50 stolen bases down there. 2022 across the minors, including Double A that same year, 55 stolen bases. He added just 5 bags in Double A. There's a nice DFS skill set there for a very cheap price at Coors Field. Another lefty bat to throw into the mix. What do I have splits? Let's see. I don't know if we have minor league splits. I don't think we do. No. We'll have to watch what he does lefty, but I wouldn't be all that concerned against this lefty and then getting into the bullpen. Bats all day long. Brewers bats, Rockies bats. I wouldn't roster either of these pitchers. And that's your slate, boys. 5 games up and down in an hour and a half or so. Not that far off the time that we took to do, 10 games yesterday? Joe Ryan, top of your pitching board, but a challenging matchup against the low strikeout Royals. Spot to watch. Yusei Kikuchi, number 2. A lot of strikeout upside for him, but a lot of power danger. Neither of those spots is particularly safe for the name brand pitcher at a fairly high price. Ryan Pepio, not particularly safe for him either, although out of that group, I believe that Angels at 3-something is the lowest run total there. $9,500, he's the most expensive guy on FanDuel. $7,900, he's the, fourth most expensive guy on DraftKings. Completely different across sites. I would absolutely play him, and I think he's got easy slate winning upside on FanDuel at that price. At $7,900, he would be the first click I would make. Like I was saying, him, then Tristan Casas as a one-off or a part of stacks, and then go from there for me on DraftKings. I love the prices on those two players. Kevin Gausman, playable against the Red Sox, but kind of mediocre. A lot of power, a lot of contact. Strikeouts have been on the decline over year over year in all of last season, and then in 2 starts so far, concerningly, year over year this season. Not actually concerningly, you know what I mean. Lugo. More enthused about Lugo now with no Byron Buxton. There's a little bit of an uptick for him, a little bit of a downgrade from the Twins from where they were earlier, but I think he's just decidedly mid. You need him to eat like 7 innings and get through it clean to really put up a competitive DFS score because he's pretty low strikeout. Grant Holmes on DK, as mentioned, that's your value apple box of the day. That's the guy that people are going to. He's going to be popular enough into the 20s somewhere at that price. And you've got a lethal offense on the other side. So given the fact that we've got a lot to work with right there, you could work Tanner Houck into that mix. I don't know how much I get too into the idea of the super discount Grant Holmes. It's obviously a way to make cores work as far as the prices go, but that's the direct path that everybody's going to take to do that. And there's no guarantee that you're getting anything close to a competitive score from Grant Holmes at that price. Houck is just playable, but the DraftKings price is good. Very likely to keep the ball on the ground and manage at least run scoring. Comes down to how many strikeouts he's capable of finding along the way, which could be said about any of these guys. Bottom 3 guys I'm not playing at all. Tyler Alexander at Coors Field. Antonio Senzatella at Coors Field. No thank you. And then Taijuan Walker on at basically any ballpark. No thank you. This has everybody from the early slate mixed into it. There's the home run model. You guys have access, you subscribers out there have access to all of these home run numbers that have also been on your screen all along. Home run column right there. But for under $1 a day, you get the projection, you get the home run mark, you get the stack rankings on the website, the home run picks on the website. You get NBA the rest of the way through the playoffs for every main slate. You get NHL every main slate the rest of the way through the playoffs. I got to go get on those 2 things. It's 4:30. People need those projections for tonight. There's a lot of NBA games tonight. But you get access to all of that, guys, at rotoscouts for under $1 a day. So I encourage you to check that out. Check out Gundacker's website as well. He and I, we're going to get together for some shows. I'm promising you guys. He knows it. I know it. We just got to actually talk to each other and make it happen, which we haven't done yet. But we'll do it. I promise. In the meantime, let's get some more wins on the board. Congrats again to Logan Grew. If you're out there, buddy, congrats. 20 grand last night. Not bad. Love seeing it. Let's get some more winners out there. Good luck out there tonight, you guys. Somebody go win something, share a screenshot when you do, and we'll be back for more tomorrow. See ya.